You've been thinking about it again. The same loop, the same conversation you haven't had yet, the same decision you've been turning over for days, maybe weeks. And everyone around you says the same thing. You just need to stop overthinking it. But what if that's the wrong diagnosis entirely? What if the problem was never too much thinking, but something much quieter happening underneath? Here is what it actually feels like. You get a message, something ordinary, and instead of simply responding, your mind begins to move. You wonder what they meant. You wonder what you should say. You replay what you already said. You imagine 5 different outcomes. You weigh each one. Minutes pass, sometimes hours. And when it's over, you feel exhausted. Not from the thinking itself, but from something you can't quite name. Psychology has a name for this pattern. It's called cognitive overload as an avoidance strategy. Your brain has learned, probably very early in your life, that thinking feels safer than feeling. Thinking gives you the illusion of control. Feeling gives you nothing but the feeling itself. And so you chose the former, again and again, without even knowing it. Psychologist Bessel van der Kolk once described the body as a place where unprocessed emotion is stored, not as memory, but as sensation. When we don't feel something fully, it doesn't disappear. It migrates up into the mind, disguised as a thought. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not too much. What you are is adaptive. At some point, in some room, with some person or situation, feeling things fully was not safe. Maybe no one validated what you felt. Maybe your emotions were treated as problems to be solved, not things to be held. So your nervous system made a decision. It outsourced the feeling to the frontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles logic, planning, language. In other words, you started using thought to process what emotion was meant to carry. This is not a flaw in your character. This is a survival strategy that outlived its usefulness. Here is what is happening inside your brain. You have 2 primary processing systems. The first is the limbic system, ancient, fast, emotional. It registers experience before you're even conscious of it. Fear, grief, longing, shame, joy. It speaks in sensations, not sentences. The second is the prefrontal cortex, newer, slower, analytical. It narrates, it plans, it constructs meaning. In a well-regulated nervous system, these 2 work in rhythm. You feel something, you name it, you integrate it, you move. But when the limbic system has learned to distrust safety, when emotion feels like a threat rather than information, the prefrontal cortex takes over as gatekeeper. It catches the feeling at the door, converts it into a question, then into another question, then into a scenario, then into a spiral. This is what you call overthinking. But the thoughts were never the problem. The thoughts were the signal. Something beneath them was waiting to be felt. So what do you actually do? Here are 4 principles grounded in psychology that can begin to close the gap. The first, name the sensation, not the story. When you notice the spiral beginning, pause. Don't ask, what does this mean? Ask instead, where do I feel this in my body? This is called somatic labeling, and it activates the interoceptive cortex, the part of your brain that reads internal physical states. Tightness in the chest, a held breath, weight behind the eyes. These are not symptoms to fix, they are emotions part-way through their journey. The second, interrupt the loop with the body. Cognitive loops live in the mind. The body is always in the present. When you are caught in a spiral, your nervous system is dysregulated. No amount of more thinking will resolve it. Physiological sigh, a double inhale through the nose, then a slow exhale, is the fastest known way to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Cold water on the wrists, your feet on the floor, the texture of something in your hand. These aren't distractions, they are returns back to the body where the feeling was always waiting. The third, practice affect tolerance in small doses. Psychologists call it affect tolerance, the ability to remain present with an uncomfortable feeling without immediately needing to resolve, explain, or escape it. You build this like a muscle, not by forcing yourself into the deepest grief all at once, but by choosing, in small moments, to feel rather than analyze. Sit with the discomfort for 60 seconds without turning it into a thought. Notice it. Breathe into it. Let it be there without acting on it. Over time, the limbic system learns something profound. Feelings are survivable. The fourth, create an emotional entry point daily. Research in affective neuroscience shows that emotion needs a channel. Without one, it backs up and shows up as rumination. This doesn't have to be dramatic. 2 minutes of unstructured journaling, no grammar, no goals. A long, slow walk without a podcast. Music that you let actually move through you. The goal is not insight. The goal is contact with whatever is already there. Here is the simplest way to hold all of this. Think of your inner life as a river. Emotion is the current, always moving, always carrying something. Thought is the surface, where we observe, name, and make meaning. When the current flows freely, the surface is clear and readable. But when the current is blocked, when you've learned it's not safe to feel, the water backs up. The surface becomes turbulent, and you stand at the bank trying desperately to read the ripples, calling them thoughts, when really they were always just emotion with nowhere to go. Overthinking is not your enemy. It is your emotion asking politely to be let through. You have been so loyal to your mind. You have trusted it to carry things that were never meant to be carried as thoughts. That is not a failure. That is the story of someone who learned to survive in whatever room they were given. But you are not in that room anymore. The path forward is not about thinking less. It is about feeling more, slowly, safely, in increments. It is about learning again to trust the quieter intelligence that was always living below the noise. Your thoughts were never the problem. They were the ones keeping watch until you were ready to feel. You might be ready now.